And lastly, two players whose performances and personality had enormous charisma, Denis Compton and Keith Miller. What about 1948 and the great Australian side under Don Bradman and Ray and Keith at their peak? Denis, and you, the 100 you got at Trent Bridge, and another one at Manchester, and was it Miller, was it you, Mr. Miller, who nearly knocked your block off?
Yeah.
He got 180 or something. I was title to try and knock his block off.
Yeah, and he bowled me.
But who hit you? Lindwall.
Oh, that was at, no, that's at, yeah, that was at Old Trafford. But
let's take Trent Bridge
But
first.
at Trent Bridge, when I got the 184, I think he was getting a bit irritated and all that sort of thing. And when he wanted to let it go, he really let it go. And he bowled me a bouncer. And it was a bit darker, wasn't it? A little bit dark.
Here, yeah.
You know, I used to say to Frank Chester, do you mind if you get the matches out and strike? But he bowled me a bouncer, and I went to hook it. I was miles too late and went off balance, and I fell over on the stumps. That was that one. And of course the...
Good delivery though, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a hostile.
A wicket Compton, you see.
Yeah.
It's worth having.
He when he wanted to bowl, especially if he had a couple of drinks like I did sometimes in the evening, next morning think, well, I must get it out of my system. He was at his most dangerous then for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then for 45 minutes he was as quick as anybody you've ever seen. And afterwards, when he felt well, he'd be like a little lamb just for a short period.
What about the problems of bowling against this fellow?
Well, you see, we're talking early on back to Australia and when we're filling in gaps, you know, like we are now. And something came up about bowling bouncers and bumpers, and I said, well, you don't have to be stupid when you bowl bumpers. You pick and choose your mark. Now, I wouldn't really ever bowl a bumper to Denis, because he's one of the few great hookers of the game. Bill Edridge was another great hook. I'm talking about the fellas I played against. But, for instance, Len Hutton, Len didn't hook, did he?
No, he didn't.
Didn't hook. And therefore, you don't mind because he sort of got awkward. And you always have a man there hoping you're going to get him. But you don't bowl bumpers at fellas like Bradman or McCabe or these fellas, Compton or Edridge. And therefore, it's a waste of delivery because it's fall every time you bowl it.
Jack Fingleton was sitting in that chair a short while ago chatting to me, Keith, and he reckoned that you and Lindwall bowled too many bouncers in 48 and took unfair advantage of the fact that England didn't have any quick bowlers.
Well, from a point of view from my good friend Jack Fingleton, he had a funny hat on, didn't he, Cap?
Yeah.
Looked like Scobie Breezy gone wrong. For somebody who went through the bodyline series with Harold Larwood, and that I was a kid watching that, and I'll tell you what, I'm glad I didn't play against Harold Larwood. I would have had a broken leg or something every day. I wouldn't want to play. For him to say, Lindwall, I bowled a lot of bumpers, I think that's rather funny. Because having gone through the bodyline series when that's all they bowl all the time, or most of the time, that seemed a bit funny coming from Jack. But Jack's a funny man too. Very humorous. He loves to stir the things a little.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that anyway. I mean, bouncer. If I was a fast bowler, and I never was. I was a little Chinaman leg spinner, like not in the same class as Fleetwood Smith. But if I was a fast bowler, and I was bowling to a top-class batsman, and I knew that that was the one ball in which he was suspect on the bouncer, I know I'd let him have 2 or 3, and if the umpire stopped me, that's fair enough, but I'd let him have 2 or 3 because that's the best way of getting him out.
And another thing, Peter, you said something because England didn't, or Finger said something about England didn't have any pace bowlers. Now, right, you've just been playing the West Indies, haven't you? And they've loaded with them, over top heavy, and yet you haven't once you've got a fast bowler. But did that stop them from bowling a lot of bumpers? And around the wicket? At least we never went around the wicket.
No, you didn't.
No. We played it fair, but, you know, hard.
Yeah, we were talking about Don Bradman. Now, this wasn't in a test match, but wasn't it when the Australians got 700 in a day against Essex? And
7-1.
And you did 7-1.
I remember that.
That's right. The only side to bowl Australia out that year, and it was true. All 10 wickets.
Right?
So the Essex have dined out on it.
Well, that was the day when Keith went in when the score was about 678 for about 5. Is that right?
And you didn't want to play, is this right?
I don't know, but it's a long while ago. My memory only goes back, you know, a couple
Well,
of months.
I tell you what, I can refresh his memory in as much that I can't tell you the exact number of runs, but it was around the 600 something.
I know,
and he went in
and
he was it, and Trevor Bailey bowled to him, and Trevor was very young too, and Keith wasn't a bit interested, and he bowled this ball, and Keith lifted up the old bat and let the ball hit the stumps. That's enough. Thank you very much. I don't want to be involved in this. You know, they scored, what, 721?
721, yeah.
What about 1953 and the Leeds Test match? I was talking to Len Hutton and Lindsay Hassett about it.
Oh, that's when we...
When you made 400 in the last innings.
Was that
No,
40? No, it's 48.
48, Leeds,
48.
sorry,
48.
Did I say 53?
Oh, yeah.
I meant 48, yes.
48, yeah.
Funny, I saw meeting the old players again. I met Kenny Cranston.
Yeah.
Ken's here, and Ken got me out, and that may be the greatest act that ever happened to cricket, because he got me out and that allowed Bradman, or I think Bradman came in after me or something like that, because Arthur Morris opened, and he was 100 and something like that, and Don came in, I think, after me, I think, or Harvey.
No,
I don't know what happened.
No, Bradman came in 3, but Lindsay Hassett opened with Arthur Morris, and in fact Jim Laker played, and the ball, it was a real turner, wasn't it, in the last day?
You bowled the funny stuff.
Didn't you have Don dropped a couple of times or
Yeah,
something?
oh dear, yes, I got Lindsay out, caught and bowled, and that was no, and then I had Arthur Morris miss the stumping, then the Don came in 3, and I had him miss twice, the first slipped me. So, you know, I mean, I was the sort of bowler that they didn't know which way to hit me, whether it was for 4 or 6. I used to get them in 2 minds, usually, but the ball turned and all that, so it spun a bit.
The reason I'm saying Ken Cranston, I'd forgotten all about Ken, I haven't seen him for long. He got me out leg before for only a few, and by the fact I got out, in came Harvey, and suddenly he could go with Arthur Morris, and really that made the game go really sizzle. And otherwise, I suppose if I'd gone around and potted around for a while, we would never got the runs, and you would not be referring to us as a great match.
That's right, and it's very strange on that turner, because Jim was very inexperienced then, and he didn't actually get a wicket, and, you know, you'd have thought, I mean, later on, when he was a very great bowler, I think he would have bowled the Australians out when they wanted 404 as fast as they came in. But that was his very first year in Test cricket.
Well, equally so. Jim Lake was a young lad then, but didn't know much about the game. Now, it's like Richie Benner, who became a great leg spinner.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Willie Watson and Trevor Bailey saved you here?
That's right, in 53.
53.
That's
now,
right.
the wicket is slow like it is. It's no good for pace. Exactly the same type of wicket as is out there. And we had Doug Ring and Richie Benner. Now, Richie Benner, being a bowler he became a couple of years ago, he would have spun England out, you know, by tea time, no trouble at all.
Right.
So, in other words, you learn, live and learn, you get a bit older and you get a bit wily.
Yeah.
And that, I really believe that Jim, those days, would have spun us out, and equally so, Benner would have spun England out here.
Denis Compton and Keith Miller sparking off some pleasant memories.